Economic news of the wild. Arnold Kling, an article entitled Numbers to Ponder. Number one, and principle, banks have an inventory of about 1 million foreclosed homes, plus another 5 million homes where the loans are badly non-performing, obviously the United States. Quick run through of that again, it's only 2 lines. Banks have an inventory of about 1 million foreclosed homes, plus another 5 million homes where the loans are badly non-performing. He writes a bit and then writes this: my personal opinion is that the foreclosure backlog is the biggest reason to be pessimistic about the economic outlook. And I think that's fair enough, and I think most people can understand that. With that backlog in housing clogging up people and banks, nothing's really going to move forward. But I am to pragmatic capitalism, and QE2 is another bank bailout and not a Main Street recovery plan. Nothing that we don't know, but it's beautifully put out in this article by PragCap. I've shown in rather elaborate detail in recent weeks that quantitative easing does not help the real economy generate a sustained recovery, and goes on to list all the blog postings that he's done showing this. Then I've pulled some interesting points out of his very good article. All of my work regarding QE has me wondering why the Fed would implement such a policy when the evidence appears to point to little to no gain in economic growth. I leave a bit out and read again. The problem with a policy like QE is that it does not actually add net new financial assets to the private sector. All this printing money and everyone thinking that the money supply is being pumped up and all that sort of thing. I actually think, I might have even got it from PragCap, that QE is slightly deflationary, if anything. But we won't go into that now. The expansion of the monetary base is not net new money in your pockets. Thus, it will not help finance new spending or investment, it will not create jobs, it will not increase aggregate demand, etc. In other words, it's pretty damn useless. It's swapping one type of asset in the banks for another type of asset. And with a slight, maybe, interest rate differential, but nothing to concern us. We go on. But there is one distinct benefit of such a policy, QE. It alters the composition of banks' balance sheets, as I just said. I'll finish with this. I think Ben Bernanke knows all of this. He has added $1 trillion in reserves to the banks already, and it hasn't resulted in a surge of borrowing or self-sustaining economic recovery. It doesn't take a genius to understand that adding another trillion won't change anything either. If there is low demand for apples, putting more apples on the shelves does not improve the apple salesman's ability to sell more apples. Good analogy. But Mr. Bernanke is seeing the same thing as I am seeing. He sees a weak economy and a housing market that appears to be rolling over again. Knowing that the banks are extremely fragile here, and understanding that there is absolutely no political will for another bailout, Mr. Bernanke is creating his own bailout by bypassing Congress. QE is purely a bailout for the banks. All of my work regarding... we've done that. We've finished. Moving on. This was on Mish's blog, and this is a little chart of actual price changes from small businesses in the United States. It's Mish's article on cost push inflation. In other words, people have been writing that Ben Bernanke is trying to use QE to push up commodity prices, which will go into the production costs, and these the manufacturers, or if they're passed on to the sellers, will have to pass on those production costs, and that's Bernanke's idea. But it's not really a sensible way of looking at things. So these are whether small businesses are putting up prices or down prices. From 2005 to 2010, basically I'll run across 2005 and 6, a positive number, and the higher the positive number, the higher they think they've got pricing power and they can put up prices. So running across 2005, it was 17, 19, 25, 23, 23, 25, 20, etc. 26 was 18, 23, 17, 26, 24, 23, etc. Now that was 2005 and 2006. In 2009 and 2010, we have minus 15, minus 24, minus 23, minus 24, minus 22, minus 17, minus 19, etc. And already in 2010, we have minus 18, minus 21, minus 20, minus 11, minus 15, minus 13, minus 11, and a little minus 8 at the end. Small and medium-sized businesses have not got pricing power. They cannot pass on the cost push that's coming into them. In other words, they are being crushed. They have to pay more on one side, but they can't get you to pay it extra on the selling side. Not good for small, medium-sized businesses, and even the monsters are struggling as well. Obviously, people that have got pricing power, like healthcare, for example, education, can just put their prices up because people have got no choice. That's where this inflation-deflation thing gets a bit confusing. Telegraph Co. UK, Angela Merkel consigns Ireland, Portugal and Spain to their fate. What should have been a pièce de résistance of an article by Ambrose Evans Pritchard, but it's so badly written it's embarrassing. But all the information we need to know is in the title. Angela Merkel consigns Ireland, Portugal and Spain to their fate. Germany basically has pushed the EU into saying next time there's a bailout, we will put these countries into some form of bankruptcy and we'll haircut the bondholders. Whether they will actually haircut the bondholders or not is a different matter, but this alters the entire picture of the Eurozone. Next article is from Narma Wine Lake. Everybody in Ireland should know Narma Wine Lake. Why is Brian Lenihan about to take 1.8 billion euro from pensioners to bail out AIB shareholders and junior bondholders? ? He writes, or she, I'm not sure, don't think anybody knows, maybe they do or they don't. The short answer is I don't know, but this is precisely what this modern day inverse of Robin Hood is about to do. Take 5.4 billion euro from the National Pension Reserve Fund to buy shares in Allied Irish Bank. And he is making the NPRF, the pension fund, buy the shares at 50 euro centimes each, when 2 days ago, on Friday, they closed at 0.33 cents a share, meaning the NPRF will incur a loss of 1.76 billion euro straight off the bat. It just shows that I don't know if you're in Ireland, it should make you angry. I've got no choice but just to laugh. And going backwards through that article to the Ambrose Evans Pritchard Telegraph article from the Alphaville, Financial Times Alphaville, bias in bonds, foreign ownership of certain peripheral European government bonds has been dropping like a stone. It's a reversal of a decade-long trend. But you could buy over the last 10 years, Irish debt, Spanish debt, Portuguese debt at a smidging over German debt, because everyone thought everyone would get bailed out. Now Merkel has changed all this, and bondholders might not get bailed out next time. They might have to take a haircut, or like at the end of Kill Bill, more than a haircut, the top of their head might get chopped off. And we have a chart here. Citigroup have made it up from the World Bank information, and note that Greece, Ireland and Portugal are now not selling their bonds to people outside Greece, Ireland and Portugal, and you can add Spain to that as well. Greece, Ireland, Portugal and Spain are having to internally buy their own debt. It's Ouroboros, isn't it? The thing that's eating its tail. And like we saw in that Wine Lake job, where the government is forcing the pension fund to buy basically what is government debt, but it's the people's debt. But on this occasion, it's for a dubious purpose of buying AIB. Nonsense. But what we've got here is the complete change in the Eurozone, that now Portugal, Greece, Ireland and Spain and Italy will come into it, and probably Belgium and other peripheral countries have much less reason to stay in the euro. They used to have this cheaper debt, government debt and many other advantages, but these advantages are slowly flying away, and we will see if we stick with Ireland, that all through the end of this year and to next year, to when they really have to hit the debt markets again, we can see all peripheral countries basically having to pay an awful lot more for their debt, and will never, ever, ever return to the cheap debt that they could float in the good old days of the last decade. That has all now gone, and they are being forced to cut back on their spending, and they're going to have to pay an awful lot more on their borrowing. It's getting towards being an impossible position for the peripheral countries of Europe. And Germany has known what it's been doing. It's known what it's been up to ever since this whole euro thing was floated. It's known exactly this was going to happen. And presumably Ireland and other countries didn't. They should have done. Bye.